Tell me about yourself, Kenneth. Where were you born? Where were you born and raised?
I was originally born in Los Angeles, and I was raised in Arleta, San Fernando Valley.
Oh, got it.
And when I was about 8, my mom and my dad got in a big fight. I guess he was found cheating on her. And so she moved over to Washington, and she met a boyfriend online. And so I went with her to kind of just take care of her, and it was just seemed better idea to be with her, you know.
Yeah, with your
And
mom.
so every other year I'd go back to California to live with my dad for a year, and then I'd go live with her for a year. And you know, it was hectic. It was pretty chaotic, but
So you'd move for a whole year
yeah,
and then pick up and move again for a whole year.
yeah.
Wow.
But she stayed in Washington.
Right.
My dad stayed in California.
Yeah.
So it was like I had these two worlds that I was living in, you know. I lived out here where it's like, you know, people are kind of passive aggressive with their anger, where in California they're physically aggressive with their anger, you know. And so it's like kind of like two different cultures, living in two different cultures, you know.
Yeah.
After high school, I had my own plans, you know. I got to do whatever I wanted because I was no longer in school. So I stayed out here. I did end up meeting a friend who lived in Hawaii, and he said anytime you want to get away from Washington, you can come out here and see what Hawaii's like. And so one day I was kind of bored and fucking had some money, so I took a plane ride out to Maui and met up with him, and they were gracious enough to let me stay at their house for a little while until I found a spot. And so I did that, and
How long?
I'd say that I was there for about a year, you know.
Run.
And while I was there, his uncle owned a Hawaiian barbecue restaurant, and I always wanted to learn how to cook professionally. So he hired me under his wing and learned how to cook really well. And I decided I wanted to go back to school, you know. I wanted to know more about culinary arts.
Yeah, yeah.
And so on my way back to Washington, on the plane, I ran into some random girl that I didn't think I was gonna like see more than just the plane ride, you know. But ended up getting her phone number, and spent about a year talking to her over the phone. She lived in Texas, and I lived in Washington. And so after a year, I left Washington to live with her in Texas.
Oh, nice.
And ended up getting working for her father, who worked for Concord Mortgage.
Okay.
So I sold home loans for a while, you know. And we were doing pretty good. Her mom sold real estate. Her dad sold home loans. They're a pretty wealthy family. Always went to a country club every weekend, you know. And so me and her got a house out there in Texas, and we paid homeowners insurance and did all that stuff. And it seemed really fake to me. That lifestyle seemed a little too much, you know.
So
I didn't want to be that guy, you know.
interesting. So something in you was just like, I'm not living.
That's not me.
It's not you.
Yeah, I was too young. I was like 22.
Oh yeah, it's really young.
You know, and I'm just like, I'm not supposed to be like this guy who wears Donald Trump ties and fucking suits and sells home loans to people who can't pay their home loans, you know.
Yeah.
And it was in that era where people were still buying houses.
Yeah. What year
You
is
know?
this? What year is this?
1999.
Okay, late
somewhere
90s.
around there. Yeah. Actually, no, it's 2004.
Okay.
Correction. People were still buying homes. during that time, and the housing market was the whole thing was just a big big pile of shit, pretty much. Like, we would sell the home loans knowing that they weren't going to pay on them, but it was the only way that we could make money, because if they were able to pay off the home loans, they wouldn't be wanting to get another home loan, and they wouldn't want to go and seek another house. So it was all this, like, and it sucks that it fell through, but since we trust you and you already bought a home loan before, we can do another one, and it would just bring these people into, like, getting into bankruptcy, pretty much, and it's like ruining their future, and I knew it because I'm not stupid, and so I stopped. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to go do something normal,
So
like sit in the kitchen,
Well, and make barbecue, maybe.
Yeah,
So what was that
exactly.
conversation like with that woman or her dad? I mean, were you just like, you know what?
It was more of a, like, I told her dad and I told her mom, like, I just think it's a better idea for me and Nona, that was her name, to go and be out in Washington, because I have family out there, and I knew everything out there. That's my life. That's my home.
Gotcha.
And like, I got good opportunities getting in kitchens. And I want to know more about cooking than I did want to learn about selling homes.
Yeah.
That wasn't part of me. That didn't make me feel good.
Yeah.
And so
Well, you want to do something you're passionate about.
Yeah. And so I left. She stayed there for a little while until I could get an apartment and get everything situated, And so immediately when I got back, I looked for a job, got a job in about like 2-3 days. Started working immediately for a kitchen, and ended up getting a 2-bedroom for $500 a month.
That's unheard of. But
No, back then it wasn't.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
but back then.
Now it's unheard of.
Yeah, now it's
right? Yeah, and so, like, I told her, because we always talked every day, on the phone, and, like, that was back when the Razor was the cell phone to get, right? Yeah. So I had that. I'd send photos, what I was doing, hanging out with my friends, stuff like that. And she ended up driving from Texas over to Washington. So she came, brought all of her stuff, put it in the apartment, and we lived there for about 4 years. And during the 4 years, like, just stuff started crumbling in our relationship, and, like, I noticed that she was 22, she was younger than me, and she wanted to experience life more than what we were doing,
Yeah.
She didn't really feel like she had a career, she's just working for Starbucks.
Yeah, sure.
And she wanted to get into a career, so she went and she went to Pima for medical school, And I noticed the strange things happening. Found out that she was cheating on me, and so, like, so we split ways, And during that time, it was really hard because I really loved her, I was like the love of my life, actually, it seemed like it anyways.
Yeah.
And so I had a hard time. I started smoking weed and doing, like, harder drugs, like, cocaine and shit like that. And
To cope with that heartbreak.
Drinking and going to a lot of parties and stuff. Make me feel young, like I was single, single guy, right? Bachelor.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with my friends, and so, like, during that time, it wasn't that bad. It just felt really bad, because I was going from job to job. I was going from renting a room over here to renting a room over there, you know, and like I did that up until like about 2011, and then that's when I went back to Hawaii.
Okay.
You know, and when I went back to Hawaii,
To connect with that same friend.
no, he was there, yeah,
Right,
but
but
I just went back for my own sake,
Oh,
you
gotcha,
know.
gotcha.
I was strong enough to, like, you know,
Yeah.
at that time I knew how to pick up jobs. I knew how to get places.
Independent enough to.
I was really fast at getting shit done, you know.
Sure.
And so I went back to Hawaii, got a job, got a spot, was living there. The funds for how you have to live in Hawaii weren't sufficient enough for me. But I had a buddy who was what is that called? Where you work for, you do a war during a certain time and then you get off.
A war.
GI or whatever. I forget what it's called, but
That went in the service. That was like part
yeah,
of the.
yeah. GI.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So he would leave for a couple of days, go and do his service, do the army stuff, and he'd come back. And we were stationed he was stationed in Oahu. You know, that's not Maui, but it's Oahu. It's right next to it. So I took care of his house while he was gone, you know. And he come back, and I was selling marijuana down in Hawaii, so it was like I was really making money. Didn't really feel that I was like having a hard time with that, you know. And I ended up selling to this girl and this guy some weed, but I wasn't really selling them that much weed. I was really more smoking them out, you know, and hanging out with them, and ended up becoming their friend. And like they ended up having a hard time because the girl was from Denmark and he was from Denmark, and they were just getting money from their parents to be in Hawaii, and like they had to wait for their tickets to go back, and they didn't really want to. So I told them, you know, you could stay at my place, you know, I don't, however long you need, you know, like it doesn't really matter. I'm not really focused on that. Just pay for food, you know, and so that's what we did, you know. It was a group of us, you know, me, my buddy, his name is Mike,
And the couple.
Kirsten, and David, and there was this girl that would always, once in a while, come through to stay at the house and stuff. But it was pretty much like a party house, you know. We had bottles all the time, tons of fucking like ecstasy and like weed and coke and all that stuff, and you know, like we were partying hard. We were drinking and going out to parties, driving around Oahu, fucking going to the beach and stuff.
What year was this, and how old were you at this time?
This was 2000, I believe 2010. Yeah, 2010.
Gotcha.
And so
And I guess you're in your late 20s, around there.
2010, 2020. No, I was 30 something. 30, 32 maybe, right?
I don't know.
Because I'm 41 right now.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was about 32. So Kirsten and David ended up getting in a big argument because I guess he was cheating on her. And he ends up leaving back to Denmark, and she stays. And then come to find out, we ended up having feelings for each other. So we hooked up, and then me and Kirsten actually ended up leaving too, because we wanted to get away from the house, and you know, it's just like there's a lot of chaos in the house, you know?
Yeah, it can only kind of take so much of that.
From the drinking and, you know, all the stuff and people coming in all the time whenever they wanted to, you know?
So did you guys come back to here?
We came back here.
Seattle?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
And we came back, and the spot that I had for us fell through because the guy on the internet was not who he turned out to be, you know, and I had paid him for the first month's rent, you know, and yeah, we got scammed, and we fucking talked to the guy, and he was just like this, he was a complete nut, you know, but he sounded like he had his shit straight because he had a spider in his car, he had a spider in his garage.
Like a motorcycle.
Car. A spider.
Got it.
Or what's that called? It's not a viper, but it's like a...
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's some kind of nice
vehicle. It's a
vehicle.
really, really expensive car. Come to find out, the motherfucker was like hiding it in his garage because he didn't want it to get fucking repoed. So he never really paid on it. And I was just thinking to myself, fuck, man, this guy just fucked us over for $500. And then he, like, you know, he was like, you know, you guys better get the fuck out of here, and like, I'll call the police on you. And
he said that he would call the police on you?
Yeah.
For scamming you?
No, because he knew that, like, while I was, my transition over here back to Washington was, I had to connect with a big farmer. For marijuana.
Oh, gotcha.
And I stashed a shit ton of fucking plants in his house.
Gotcha, I see.
And he was gonna call the police.
I see.
That there was all these marijuana plants inside the house.
Sure, he has some leverage. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, fuck them, you know, like let's go. Ditch the plants. I can always fucking grow more, you know, they're plants, right? And so we left, and we were just homeless for a while.
And what year was that?
This was same year, 2011.
And so was this the first time that you...
This is first experience with sort of homelessness. Not really homeless, you know? And we ended up leaving there, and I ended up calling up some of my friends, and they let us stay at their place for a little while until we found something. And then we found a spot in the U District with a guy who was selling marijuana, and he was an artist. He used to take classical Mozart music and blend it with electronic music. He was a really intelligent guy, to be honest. He's really smart. He knew a lot about a lot of shit. And so kind of like, if I felt like he was a good guy to be around my girlfriend without, like, you know what I mean, doing anything weird and shit, and fucking, we ended up being his friend, and fucking, like, you know, I loved him like a brother, and fucking, I thought that we were cool with each other, you know. And then all of a sudden, just like, he ended up not being able to sell some of his weed because some of his weed got jacked, and he was scared that he was going to be homeless. And the guy next door to us was fucking, who was part of the rental agreement. He was living in the basement, and ends up fucking getting arrested for fucking cocaine possession. And so fucking, you know, like, we had to find somewhere else. We ended up leaving there, and come to find out, she was pregnant with my kid at that time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so she called up her mom because she was like, I don't want to run around anymore, you know, spot to spot, because, like, we're going to have a kid, you know. I was like, all right, that's fine, you know. Whatever I can do, you know, I'll try to do. And we end up moving over to Redmond, and her mom paid for us to have an apartment out there. Still the end of 2011, pretty much, like, she was pregnant. She was totally feeling like shit. You know, we're about like 3 or 4 4 months in to the pregnancy, you know, and so our child was born August 15th, 2011, and so we had a new baby. We were inside of an apartment in Redmond. Her mom was living with us. And
she came from Denmark to live with you guys to help with the baby.
She did, yeah. And she just, like, her mom, I did not know, but was pretty fucking wealthy, you know? And she never really talked to me about that. And because I guess I never really asked, you know? But she took care of a lot of the expenses. And, like, I had a bullhorns on, you know? Because, like, I thought it was a guy's job to do all that type of shit. And I didn't really want to accept what she had to offer, kind of thing, you know? But I did, you know? And it fucking ate at my ego. Made me feel like I was not able to pull the weight, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt that, like, I was trying to pull the weight because, like, I had a grow operation going in Darrington, and I was making some money. I was buying some stuff for our daughter, but it just in my head it seemed not to match to the amount of money that was being expended to our daughter from her mom. You know, didn't make me feel like a dad. Didn't make me feel like I was grown and taking care of our daughter. You know.
Yeah.
And so I felt like somebody just living there, and I would get in these arguments with her, and I was just not being grateful, pretty much, you know. And so
well, as you look back at that now, as older, you know, and wiser, like what do you think was going on with you?
I think I was going through some severe depression. I was really depressed. I was using too much marijuana, and it wasn't helping with the depression. It was just pacifying it, you know.
Right.
And I didn't have anyone to really communicate with of how to deal with being a dad.
Yeah, right.
You know,
just kind of felt isolated and by yourself and alone.
Mine wasn't there.
Yeah.
Mine never was there, so I don't know what being a dad was. I grabbed reference of being a dad off of a TV, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, you know,
kind of winging it.
Yeah, and I got into arguments with her that were just like petty arguments, you know. And so we split up, you know, and she has our daughter, and fucking, she ends up, we get in an argument. She calls the police, and I go to jail and end up having to do 2 years in drug treatment and 2 years away from our daughter, you know. And so I finish the 2 years, get back in contact with our, seeing my daughter again. And then over the next few years, up until COVID started, I was taking care of my daughter on the weekends and seeing her as much as I possibly could with work, you know?
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. I lost my job and lost my place. And I just couldn't stand being like, having this circle keep happening, you know? Because it just kept happening from like Hawaii, since I started working, to fucking like then, you know? Lose my job, lose my place, get another job, get another place. And, yeah, and it was just so much fucking bullshit, you know? I kept losing stuff, and then I would have to gather it back up with new job, new place, you know?
It's exhausting.
And so I just stopped. I stopped working, you know? And COVID was going around. And so my daughter's mom told me, you know, stay away from Elizabeth because, you know, you don't want to get her sick because you're homeless, you know? And so I agreed to that, you know? And so I stayed to keep myself occupied. there was a guy in Linwood who had who was starting a shower program for the homeless, and I was running that program for him and making sure that us homeless people were getting showers, and like making a list of who was going in, who was coming out, and I took care of that program for about a year. And then after that year, I ended up just kind of like staying out, going out around and stuff, you know. And then I contacted my mom because I was getting really depressed, you know, being homeless and this stuff, this COVID, and how there was this change in like people, you know. The regular person who works and stuff was like, you know, always coming up to the bathroom when people were in the bathrooms of places, and, you know, trying to be like, you know, you can't be in there, you know, like policing bathrooms and policing where you sit or where you are as a homeless person, you know, in the community. And it was fucking, it was just egging at me, man. It was fucking just really pulling my strings. So I went to go see my mom. Come to find out, like, she was on the verge of being homeless because, you know, Linwood was too expensive, and she had money, you know, she has money. Like, it's like, to think that my mom could be homeless was even more bullshit that I had over my head, you know? It's like anybody can be homeless. These companies don't give a fuck. After COVID, they're just like, fire them, get rid of them. We'll get another person. And it's like, how? You fucking, if everyone's homeless, how the hell are you gonna find a person to fucking work for you, dude? You have to have a place. You have to have a cell phone. You have to have an alarm clock, clean clothes, a place to shower, to have a fucking job. So you're like, you're killing all these people off because you don't know how to run a company and you don't know how to keep employees. That's the company's problem.
Yeah, that's right.
And, you know, and the state doesn't see it, doesn't care, you know? So like, we got this big housing fucking problem where it's like everyone is getting kicked out of their house, but these big corporations and these millionaires have the money to go and buy the property because it's for sale, because it's low, right? Buy low, sell high, right? So these motherfuckers are crushing down tons of these buildings and these personal homes, and they're putting up condos that are gonna fit like fucking what, 100, 200 people in them, that they believe that are gonna come and rent in them, but there's no one renting them. So that makes it so that they have to charge more for these apartments in these homes, where it's like $2,300 for a condo, which is kind of good for them if they can find somebody who has the money. But when you look at America, no matter if you give them 20 or you give them $30 an hour, it's going to be hard for them to have $2,500 out of their paycheck going to housing. You know what I mean?
It's so expensive, man. It's a struggle. I do know what you mean. I struggle. Lots of people are struggling in the city. It's incredibly expensive. Couple things. You still in contact with your daughter, Elizabeth?
No, I'm not.
And did she go back to Denmark or still in Seattle?
I don't know.
You don't know. You lost contact.
Well, I called, and her mom said you haven't been calling or trying to see your daughter, so like your daughter doesn't know that you love her, and she doesn't want to speak to you anymore.
That was the last time you kind of tried to make contact?
That was the last thing that they told me, and they said,
when was that?
Stop calling here, and if you want to talk to your daughter, you have to go through the courts.
How long ago was that?
This was about 7 months ago.
What is that like for you?
It made me suicidal. So, I started smoking fentanyl.
To cope with that?
No, to try to kill myself.
I have 2 daughters. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, man. That's fucked up.
And this life is terrible, you know?
It's hard.
It's like you look at him, you look at all the people and fucking... they all look at you like you're scum and shit, you know? For living out here. It's like, you know, it's not like I want to live out here, but I also don't want to work for fucking corporate America where I'm gonna be looking at the people that are in my community like they're shit. Why should I have to go back to a company and then fucking tell people that they can't go and use the bathroom, or you can't be in front of this corporation that I'm working for, and then to be in the corporation and being, you know, doing the fucking nasty shit that they require for you to be fucking employed, you know?
Kenneth, what do you want the people of Seattle to know?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I thought that Seattle was a place where you had the majority of the smartest people in the country. You know? This is supposed to be like where all the geniuses are, right? And it seems like we're not acting like that. We're not even personifying that in our community and shit. You know? We're supposed to be able to conquer anything. And we're just fighting with each other instead of doing that shit. It's crazy.
Man, I hope that you can get back in contact with your Elizabeth. That's important for you and for her, I know it is. I mean, how old is she? 12? 11? 12?
11.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think I'm gonna die out here.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm planning on dying.
Well, man, as a dad of
You know.
2 daughters, no matter what state you're in, she needs you. She needs you.
Well, you know, I believe that too, but I believe it's not like I can. It's not under my control. You know what I'm saying? Like, her mom works for the court system. You know, it's kind of like if I go to the courts and ask for this to be able to see my daughter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more like, why don't you just write away your rights?
Yeah.
You know, get rid of your right to see her, and custody. Give away your custody of her. You know.
But you haven't done that.
I haven't.
So
No, I'm not going to.
So you're good, man. And so you still have those rights.
Yeah.
Like, those are your rights.
Yeah, I know.
Just so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You have a right to see your daughter.
But I know her mom wants me to go through the courts.
Right. That's the hard part.
Because she wants full custody, probably.
Oh, yeah. You know. Who knows? Yeah.
So,
but you got to go through that process of the courts and.
First, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's hard.
Yeah. And she has to find me to fucking give me those papers to try to get me to go to court. She can't find me. No one can find me, you know?
Yeah.
So, but you know, like, I don't go on the internet. I don't do any of that stuff. I know what it's done to people. You know, there's something evil in that shit.
Can be, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tool you can use for.
Thank you.
That people use.
You know, it's like the Black Mirror.
Oh,
You know what Black Mirror is, right?
I mean, the show or like?
No, like a legitimate Black Mirror.
Tell me more.
A Black Mirror is like mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? And the mirror says, not you. And then shows you an image of somebody that you look up to. This is who is. You know, so that when you look in the mirror or television, you want to be somebody else. You know, you want to be this person off of this television show or that television show, or you want to go and fucking sail the 7 seas and fish crab, and you know what I mean? So it's it's like, if you can watch TV and you can go through these programs and stuff and learn from them, it's a good tool. It's a good thing for you, you know, as long as you don't lose yourself in it, and you want to be somebody else. As long as you stay not asking who's greatest of them all, you know. So,
break the mirror, man.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Kenneth, man, thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Man,
yeah.
I hope you connect with your daughter, and I mean, obviously you love her, and I know she loves you.
Yeah.
No matter what state you're in, she needs her dad.
Yeah.